On this episode, have you ever wondered what coaches really care about when it comes to goalies? Do you think they really care about your style, or if they know really anything at all about goalies? Well, this should be a good one, so stay tuned and you'll find out the answers.
This is the dark side of the Mask Podcast, a Goalies Matter production. This podcast will give you an inside look behind the mask, both the physical one worn by goalies and the emotional one we use to hide our burdens we carry. We'll address the issues affecting goalies' mental health and help you see the light. We want you to know that you are not alone in this fight. So let's fight this battle together.
Welcome to the Dark Side of the Mask Podcast, and I'm your host, Coach Giggs. And today, we're going to get into the million-dollar question that is on everybody's mind. What do these lacrosse coaches really care about when it comes to goalies and their goalie decisions about who to play, who to start, who to bring in the second half, or if you have any choices at all if you only have one goalie? Well, we're going to get into how this affects us physically, mentally, and emotionally, and what you can do to overcome these challenges so that you can find your way off Goalie Island and see the light. So let's get after it, right? So what is it that coaches care about? I want to dive into this reality of what coaches really care about when it comes to their goalies. Like, ever wonder why or how coaches select their starters? Some of these are mind-blowing, and maybe for some of you, it's just logical. But I can tell you this right now, that this is becoming the ongoing question that is plagued by so many, and I hear about it with every one of my students, from clinics to camps, and any goalie I come into contact with. They always ask, well, I don't understand why coach selected this goalie versus myself. And I will admit to this, that again, I've explained this one time before, is I have been burned in the past not knowing both sides of the story, right, as to why some goalies may not have been selected as a starter. So I can't tell you exactly why every single kid isn't selected to be a starter, but I want to get down to the root cause of where it stems from, right? So let's first identify what is our role as goalies. And for those listening, most of you should understand this pretty easily. It's real simple. Stop the ball, right? It's logical. It's common sense. For just about any one of us that we understand, stop the ball. And we just need us to be our best that we can be, right? Be the best that we can be when we're out there. So here is a hard fact that many do not want to agree. But I love numbers, I love statistics, and I love using high numbers because it's true. And this number might actually have increased over time. But I can honestly say in 25 plus years, in fact, I'm going on 26 here shortly, of being in the goalie community as a coach, 90% of coaches in America, boys, girls, men's, women's, every division, know little to nothing about goalies. Think about that for a second. 90+% of coaches in America know little to nothing about goalies. Probably shaking your head. You're right. You're absolutely right. Like, if I think about my goalie for a second, his coach, they don't know anything. However, that other 10% or the other percentage are probably former goalies, goalie coaches, or someone, here's a funny one, or someone who actually invested their time and money and took the initiative to learn about the position. Now, it doesn't mean they have to be awesome at understanding the position. Heck, even if they said, hey, I know nothing about goalies, but I'm going to at least invest my money and take some of my salary and pay for a goalie coach to come in and work with my goalies. That's initiative. That is what we're looking for. If you don't know anything about goalies, well, then fix that, right? When you think about football coaches in the NFL, do you think they know everything about every single position? No, they know a little bit about every single position, but they don't know a ton about every single position, right? Some may have been former offensive players. Some may have been former defensive players. So they have, a niche. Even if you were a former goalie who's a head coach in lacrosse today, they're going to know more about goalies than they probably do about offense or about defense. And what you don't know, you fill in on your staff with the areas that you need more help with. So if I'm a goalie coach and I'm a head coach, I know something about defense and I know something about offense, but I don't know enough to teach plays, teach the ins and outs, the tricks, the tips, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go out and find an offensive coordinator. And if that means I have to spend a little bit of my own salary to do that, I will. Same thing with a defensive coordinator, right? And if I don't know anything about faceoffs, because I'm a goalie, so what would I know about faceoffs? I'm going to go hire a faceoff specialist to come in and work with my faceoff guys. So what you don't know, you fill in. But you can't go through the season not having every position covered at some point. We're going to talk about resources in a little while. So let's get down to the coaches, this 90%, and the ones who know little to nothing about goalies. And what do they care about? If you were to put a goalie on the field and they come to tryouts or to a practice, and the coach is trying to determine who to select for their goalies, who are they going to take? Pretty simple. The one who saves the most shots, right? I mean, ain't that the truth? I want the goalie who stops the most shots to be my goalie, right? And it's kind of funny when you're talking in the recruiting side of things, D1 lacrosse coaches, this is across the board. You know, you can only be blessed if you have a goalie coach that stumbles across your path that wants to be a grad assistant or a volunteer goalie coach. But I would say 9 out of 10 programs in America today, D1 programs, they're going to go out, they're going to shop around, find the best goalie, whether it's through recruiting, through the transfer portal, and they're going to find the best goalie they can so that they don't have to worry about hiring a goalie coach to work with their goalies. We're talking, the elite of the elite, top of the top, D1 caliber. They should know what they're doing. So I want to find the best goalie that I can find so that I don't have to hire a goalie coach. Pretty simple, right? So if you're a D1 goalie and you've gone off to play in college, you'll learn pretty quick. There's not a goalie coach on your staff. You pretty much are going to get to that point where you're going to have to figure out how can you excel on your own without a goalie coach at the D1 level. That is a hard pill to swallow sometimes, and a lesson learned. So you want to try to learn as much as you can before you get to college, because once you're there, you're on your own, man. Okay? So coaches care about one thing, who can save the most shots. But how, or should I say, what is it that they also care about? So they care about who saves the most shots, right? They want a goalie who can stop the ball, control the rebound, and clear it afterwards. That's it. That's all that they really care about. At the end of the day, they only care about stopping the ball, controlling the rebound, and clearing the ball effectively down the field. They don't give two shits about how you do it. Just keep the ball from crossing the line. I talk to my students all the time that it's not about how you look. It might, to me as a goalie coach, because I'm trying to work on improving, their skill set, increasing their ability to stop the ball and controlling the rebound so that they can do it on a consistent basis. These coaches who know nothing to little about goalies, and again, continuing to talk about the 90%, don't care how you stop the ball, just keep the ball from crossing the line. However, every once in a great while, in maybe a victory, they may say, hey, I don't like you going to your knees to make a low save. You should stand up more. Now you're going to be critical. Now you're going to give feedback. That's pretty funny. Just turn the other way, coach. Just let me do my job, right? That's what you're thinking to yourself. So like they might act like they might actually care about how you make saves, but let's be real, they don't, unless they really are in that 10%. Like I just mentioned, you can talk about, dropping to your knees, stopping the ball by any means necessary, getting low, closing up the holes, controlling that ball, getting the ball in your stick and clearing the ball. I'm going to try to help you stop that ball more consistently. I'm going to help you control that rebound so that you can clear that ball. Coaches aren't thinking that way. Can you just stop it? Can you control it? And can you clear it? At the end of the day, that's really all they care about. What I love most about these coaches is that when you have a bad game, their feedback is very limited to broad points, to that specific individual, to any individual for that matter, that's watching the game can point that out. Okay, I had a rough game today. They can say, you got to step to the ball. Hey, you need to come out at them. You need to attack their stick. Anyone can say that. Anyone can just clearly watching the game and say, you weren't stepping to the ball. No shit. Thanks, Sherlock. Thanks, genius. Hey, I realized I wasn't stepping to the ball. So I need to work on that my next time out. when you go to ask these coaches, what do I need to work on? That's what they give you. You need to step to the ball. Well, thanks. How do you want me to step to the ball? Step out 45, step laterally. Do I need to step hop? Do I need to get in their face? Do I match their sticks? What do you want me to do? Because it's very broad based. This is the part that sucks about being a goalie. You don't get the discrete or the concrete feedback that you need so that you can improve, so that you can take that input and go to a goalie coach or to some goalie resource out there and say, I was told that I wasn't stepping to the ball well enough. Well, what does well enough mean? I'm going to ask that question. What does well enough mean? All the time, consistently, just missing the ball? Were you stepping laterally when you should have been stepping out, vice versa? Feedback is good to an extent, but if they have no idea what they're talking about, I have problems with that as well. Okay, so if I'm asking for feedback, I want you to give me feedback, coach. That's what I'm looking for. Are my hands in? Are my hands out? And if you can't give me constructive feedback, could you please say, hey, we have video, and maybe I can get you the highlight clip or the video reel so that you can go back and watch it yourself so that I can take back some things that I noticed I wasn't doing well. The last thing I want is them to give me feedback that I can't do anything with. So for those coaches that know very little, don't give me feedback about a position you know nothing about. That's the other thing. We're talking about you 90%ers who know little to nothing about goalies, which means you probably were never a goalie. You probably have never been hit in the face, thigh, shoulder, arm, ankle, calf with a ball. The last thing I want is feedback from somebody who never even played lacrosse. So if you're not a goalie, don't give me some bullshit feedback that I can see right through. Just give me some pointers that you saw, some general comments, and give me the highlight film or the video so that I can go back and look at it and make my own comments and get my own feedback so I can go talk to a goalie coach, a real goalie coach who can help me out with that. If you don't know what I did wrong, when I come to you, then tell me. Don't bullshit me. Straight up. That's one of my biggest pet peeves these days is kids want feedback, and I tell the kids, hey, if you don't know why you got pulled or you're not going in and you ask for feedback and they don't give you legitimate feedback, then don't give me some crazy feedback that makes no sense because you were never a goaltender. Anyways, I digress, or I'll get really heated, and I'll save that topic about feedback for another podcast title or another episode. Anyways, so let's talk about these coaches again who know little to nothing about goalies, right? And they continue to want to blame you for a loss. They may not show it up front that they are blaming you, but they do. They will continue to blame you because that's what coaches do. People who don't know anything about goalies, that's what they're going to do. Parents do the same thing. Teammates do the same thing. Of the 80% of the 90% that I'm talking to, they're going to be smart enough to tell their team. This is one of those things that, pet peeves of mine, right? 80% of those 90% who in their head are blaming the goalie for the loss are smart enough to tell their team after the loss, go get your goalie. Others will say nothing. Others will just say nothing. Of the 90% that we're talking about, maybe almost 60 to 70% of them will allow their team to rush their attackmen like they won the game for them, leaving goalies and defense hanging behind. I have a personal problem with this. To me, this is what I call bullshit. Coaches will typically tell their team, hey, go get the goalie after a loss. As if, they need to build them up, right? Like, oh, it's okay, go get them. Because they know deep down, it was actually their fault. And who's there? The coaches. They know that they fucked up. They know they didn't put the best team out there. They know that they weren't working with their offense better. They know they weren't working with their defense better. But you know what? To kind of ice that over, we're going to say, go get your goalies. So it looks like I care about our goalies. But they're also the same ones who will also allow their team to run to their attack after the game, to cheer them on as if they were the ones who actually won the game for them. Bro, I hate to tell you this. Last time I checked, lacrosse is a team sport. It takes everybody on the field and sidelines to win a game or lose a game. In my personal opinion, all teams gets their goalie regardless of result, and it should be the initial reaction when that final whistle blows. Win or loss, you are busting your ass and you're high-fiving your goalie, you're patting him on the back, not just the goalie, all goalies. Because if you didn't have them, you wouldn't be able to play the game. If you didn't have a goalie on your team at all, you wouldn't have a season. Think about that. I'm preaching to the choir here. I get that. That's just my little soapbox moment there. Now I want to touch on a subtopic, goalie context, okay? The second half of my episode today is I want to talk about the starting role. Who gets named the starter, right? Because that's probably bothering a lot of goalies out there today, right? Why am I not starting? Number one question, why am I not starting? Right? Working with a lot of students and goalies and parents, and they always want to know, why am I not starting? Well, again, this is where there's two sides to every story, right? Or we'll say there's three sides. The goalie story, the coach's story, and then the actual truthful story, right? And this part has burned me in the past. So I'm not going to dive into, I'm jumping on the shoulders of my goalie 100%, right? Because, I was an organization coach for 12 years before I called it quits and became a strictly goalie coach, right? So I understand both sides, being on the field as a player and being on the sidelines, right? But when it comes down to who's starting, there's two things that come into play, right? You have to understand what it is that you can control, right? And what are the things that you can't control. You can control all day long how you work, how hard you work, how often you work, right? And the intensity, how hard you work in practice or in training, right? Those are things that you can control. What you can't control are those outside influences. You can't control the politics. That's a whole nother fucking topic. You can't control parents and how much money they have throwing it at the coach and the program. Hey, I paid for our team bags this year, so my kid should play. Oh, and your kid is a crappy ass goalie. He just started playing 3 weeks ago. But because dad's going to throw $10,000 to get team bags and team shooters for the team, well, he's going to play. That's garbage. That's absolute garbage. At the collegiate level, it's more of an internal politics game when it comes to seniority. They will play the old, hey, we're going to go with the better goalie of all of the goalies that we have. You guys compete against one another, and I'm going to pick the best one based on that. Okay, but at the end of the day, the good old boy network still kicks in, and it's usually a seniority thing. We're going to take the next person in line. Senior, junior, sophomore, freshman. That's usually how it goes. Until they get to that sticking point where they have two goalies of the same graduating year. That's where it gets tricky. But anyways, for most of you who are listening, it's more on the high school and youth level. So let's get back to who starts. Kind of comes the same way with tryouts. You have a number of goalies trying out for the same position. They may say, we're taking two goalies. One's already been kind of named because they came back from last year. He's still consistent, still pretty solid, right? And then you have a second goalie that they have two goalies that are fighting for that final spot. So whether they're fighting for the final spot or they're fighting for the starting position, here is how it plays out. Based on everything I've mentioned so far to this point, right, here's the scenario. Goalie A steps on the field for a 2-day tryout, okay? Goalie B steps on the field for tryouts as well. Goalie B has only been playing for a year. No goalie training. Goalie A steps on the field, has been playing lacrosse for 5 or 6 years as a goaltender, has had extensive goalie training. Doesn't matter who the trainer is, whatever. And they get to tryouts. For the first time, they get to the field. Goalie B just jumps on there, throws his gears on, and he looks pretty good in warm-ups. Goalie A jumps on there, goes through his whole pre-practice routine. He's getting into it. He has a player shooting on him, whatnot. He's getting into it. And so coaches enter the field, and they're going to look at these two, and they're going to do an evaluation of these two goalies. And so goalie A goes in and does pretty decent. Goalie B steps in there and lights it up. Goalie B makes 30 stops. Goalie A makes 10 stops. Who's the starter? You're probably thinking, probably goalie A, maybe, or it could be goalie B. You're right, it's goalie B. He made 30 stops. Okay? Why? Let's break down the context of how that happened. Some of you probably already know this, but for those who don't, let me spill it out for you. When goalie B was in there, goalie B had the starting defense in front of him. he also had the third string offense in there and some attackmen who've never played attack before taking shots on him. So where do you think those shots are coming from? Outside. Where do you think the defense are keeping them from? Shooting from inside. So all of his shots are at least 12 to 15 yards out because guys can't get inside to get a shot off or even get open. So the only thing they can do is shoot from the outside. Any good, decent goalie should be able to make those stops. Goalie A, who only makes 10 stops, goes in there with we'll give you the second, maybe third string defense and the number one offense. And on this offense, you have two guys who are going to go play Division I lacrosse, two middies who are playing D1 and D2 lacrosse. The other ones are just as legit, but the defense is not as strong. And he gets rolled with about 20 shots, maybe 30, 40 shots. He makes 10 saves. But those 10 saves were all within a 3-yard radius of the crease. 10 stops in a 3-yard radius from guys who are going to play at high-level lacrosse. Well, that's not how Coach sees it. Coach sees goalie B made 30 stops, goalie A made 10 stops. So, according to non-logical coach's math, goalie B is going to be our starter. Goalie B is going to make that final spot on our roster because he made more stops. And then guess what happens? We all know how this scene plays out. As soon as that kid goes in with the first defense against another legitimate top-notch, top D1 offense that they have to go against, gets rolled, gives up 25 goals, couldn't make a single save. All the shots were within 3-yard radius, right? Yeah, he can make 30 saves from outside versus the guy who made 10 saves inside on the crease because all those shots that he faced, he made 10 saves, but all those saves from goalie A, he had another 20 or 30 more that were right on the crease in that same spot. So all of his shots were all within a close range. So does that make sense? Yeah, perfect. Perfect sense, right? You go with goalie B. And that, my friend, that is how starters are selected. Now, maybe this is more common, a common practice in those non-traditional or non-hotbed regions of the world, and maybe in the hotbed regions, there's more competition. So there's very, very few, maybe mediocre goalies. And so therefore it's a lot easier. The competition is a lot greater. And you always are getting consistently great goaltenders. So maybe it's a little bit different, right? But there's a lot more non-traditional areas in this country than there are traditional or hotbed locations. So that is just one scenario. The other scenario is something I can't speak to because it's politics. And I fucking hate politics. I've lived with it for a good chunk of my life when I was coaching high school, and I continue to with working with goalies and trying to make sense as to why certain goalies are starting and others are not. And also, again, not understanding the other side of the story. So again, there's 3 sides. There's the coach's story, the goalie story, and the actual story. So this is something to kind of think about, to kind of give your goalie or if you're the one listening as a goalie, some insight as to why maybe you're not starting or why your kids are not starting. That's just one scenario. And the other one's just politics, and I can't really talk too much to that because it drives me insane. So let's talk about how we can change this narrative, right? How can we change coaches' decisions when it comes to starters? How can we change getting over the fact that our coaches don't know anything about goaltending, right? The first is really understanding the coaching point of view, right? Understand that coaches don't know anything about goalies. Again, we're talking to the 90% of coaches out there that know little to nothing about goalies. Not the 10% that do, because those are the ones that are going to look out for your goalies. They're the ones who were a goalie. They're the ones who've taken shots off the head, taken shots off the shoulders, you name it, every spot that there's no padding. They got bruises. They got badges of honors. But we're talking to the 90% that know little to nothing about goalies. You have to understand that they only care about 3 things, and that is to stop the ball, control it, and clear the ball. So do that, right? Easier said than done, right? So we go back to the controllables, right? They want a goalie who can stop more shots, but you can only do what you can control, and I talked about that. And what you can control, we talked about, the frequency, intensity, time, the FIT method, right? How often you train, how intense you train, right? And how long you train for. You can control some of those variables. right? And then as part of that, you want to seek out goalie coaching, help utilize and utilize the resources that you have access to. In other words, right now, we didn't have social media back in the day. Back in the 90s, there was no such thing as social media. Internet, yeah, kind of. But what you have today with Snapchat and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, there's all sorts of resources. There's no excuse why you can't just, type in something in a search function, say goalie training drills for lacrosse or goalie drills, something that you can work on. So take it upon yourself. Take the initiative, because if the coaches are not going to take the initiative, you can take the initiative. This is one of those things about how to become a better leader, and that is to take the initiative, jump on the internet, find resources. And if you need an explanation, oh my God, there's not a single goalie coach out there that wouldn't answer your email within an appropriate amount of time and get back with you with a question. I know I'm always available. You can always email me or call me or whatever, and I'll be glad to give you some pointers, some tips. So utilize the resources that are out there without a doubt, because there's so many that are out there, right? Ask a teammate. This is, again, something that you can do as a goaltender. Ask a teammate to take shots on you before or after practice, right? Depending on when your practice time is. If it's after school, hey, maybe get out there early, get, your buddy, to come out there and say, hey, take some shots on me. And more specifically, could you work on my low shots? Get me warmed up, allow me to warm up, and then let's work on our low shots. Can you do that for me? Cool. After practice, same thing. Or maybe, or better yet, you use a combination of defense and offense. Hey, maybe there's an attackman and a defender to work on one-on-ones, working on one-on-ones from behind the crease, so they're getting work, and then they're coming in on the crease, so you're getting one-on-one work on the crease. You're working on holding your pipe. Find a way that you can continue to keep getting better, because, again, there are some coaches that will stick around and see that kind of stuff, or get there early to see what their players are doing before and after practice, to see if you're putting in the extra work. And if you put in the extra work every single practice and they're still not starting you, and you go and ask them, like, hey, Coach, I'm doing everything I possibly can. I still would like to know, why am I not starting? Why have I not seen much action? I stick around after practice to get extra shots. I come early before to get extra shots. I'm seeing a goalie coach. You're doing all the right things. I'm telling you right now, you're doing all the right things. But why a coach isn't playing you, I can't answer that question all the time. I can only assume at this point, right? And every coach is different. So I'm not going to be able to say, okay, here's why you're not playing, ... It could be the fact that, hey, our starter is just a little bit better, or I see something different, or here's a good one, and this is no knock on any goalie out there, okay? I was training a goalie, very good goalie, right? His starting goalie was beyond mediocre. He was about the same level, both very talented goalies. The other one played, and I felt like my student had more of an edge, right? But what I did not know was, until I went to a game, I realized why he wasn't playing. He had the opportunity to go in there, but as soon as he went in the second half, right, he went in, he had a couple big saves, and then he gave up 5 shots in a row. With each shot, his head dropped a little bit lower. You could just see his balloon deflating, and you could literally see him just lose it. He got into his own head, and he started to just get into his head and basically get out of the game. He started to think too much. It took me to come see that, and that could be a reason why some goalies see the field more than others, is because some goalies have a better mindset when it comes to giving up shots and how you see it. There was another goalie I worked with a long time ago, and again, 2 great goalies, Hope College, and I'll never forget. Actually, one's the coach's son, and everyone thought, it's like nepotism. He's getting more time. Come to find out, the kid literally had goldfish mentality. Every goal he gave up, and he gave up quite a few goals, right? But he fought back. Every goal that he went in, he totally forgot. He looked at the next shot as another opportunity to prove that he's a great goaltender. And that last shot was nothing. And that's why he kept starting and why he saw more playing time, because he's able to control his emotions. He was able to control his reactions. And so therefore, that is one of those reasons why a coach would start that guy, goalie A versus goalie B, because goalie A has a better head on his shoulders. Goalie B is equally as talented, but he tends to get in his own head. That's an internal thing. And that's something that you can work on through whether with a goalie coach, a head coach, a therapist, a counselor, a friend, somebody you can get those things off your chest. Like, I don't know why I keep giving up a goal. Those are things that you can work on by just talking things through or coming up with coping mechanisms and techniques to get through giving up those goals. So anyways, I kind of digress off that path. But anyways, those are the kinds of things that will help influence your coach by staying before or getting there before practice and after practice, seeing extra shots. That's going to help influence your coach's decisions. And same thing. The more that you keep working, you're going to get better. And then you just got to control the head, which is, again, easier said than done. Another thing you can do is seek out a goalie coach. If you're not working with one and coach is saying you're not getting playing time because, I just don't see the level of talent there. Well, you can change that. It's called getting work. If you're not going to use social media, seek out goalie coaches in your area. Some are easier to find than others. If I had a kid, reach out to me from Washington State. I know there's a goalie academy. It's called Northwest Goalie Academy, and they coach goalies. But that's just one academy in a part of Washington. Is somebody from the northern part of Washington going to go reach out to somebody in Seattle? Maybe not. Same thing here in Michigan. I'm down here in the lower half of Michigan. Am I going to get somebody from Marquette come all the way down here for a lesson? Probably not. It's just not feasible. It's not logical, especially during the winter months. It's hard to get down here because, they're buried underneath the snow up in the UP. They're under like 3 feet of snow. So it's not logistical. But if you can find a goalie coach in the area, try to see what you can do and get them to come to your place or you go to them so that you guys can train, right? And if you can't find a local goalie coach, then again, hit back up on the resources. We talked about social media. We talked about asking questions. But I'll tell you what, the best goalie resource to start is my good friend Damon Wilson, Lax Goalie Rat. Go out to his website. I guarantee you're going to improve your game just by using his website. And his website's linked to our Goalies Matter website, and you can find a link right there at goaliesmatter.net. Go into our supporters. You can find Lax Goalie Rat, and he is the man. In Google Lax Goalie Rat, right? He has virtual summits. He has play-by-plays of things that you can work on, drills you can do. He has his own podcast from D1 Goalies. He has college training sessions. You name it. He's got everything under the sun to help you improve your game physically, right? And he's got mind-setting stuff on there as well. I handle the mental health side of things with Goalies Matter. He handles you guys from a physical side and a mind-setting side. So we kind of, like I said, we have a good partnership. So Lax Goalie Rat is the man. I would reach out to him. That's probably your number one resource that I would go to learn, to get better and get drills for the game. And if not, you can use YouTube and social media. But understand this, when it comes to getting better, more reps equals natural reaction. Or let me repeat that. More repetitions will help you with natural reaction, also known as muscle memory. The more you see, the better you become. Are you going to create a new habit with 100 shots? No. 300 shots? Maybe. 800? Probably. 1,500? For sure. At that point, you're not thinking anymore. You're naturally doing it. Your body just naturally flows. So I tell kids all the time, I said, yeah, you can go to clinics, but how many reps are you going to get in an entire clinic? I ask that question all the time. How many reps do you think you get in a 3-hour clinic? And I guarantee you won't even see 100. But you come to a personal one-on-one lesson with a coach, you might see minimally 300. In a 1-hour session, you can get 300. I was clocked one time by one of my students' parents that I clocked in 520 reps in a 1-hour session because the kid didn't do a whole lot of talking. I just got right down to taking shots, and that kid got immensely better in just 3 years. Started as a sophomore, started playing goalie as a sophomore, and was like a star by the time he was a senior. So pretty impressive for this kid because he had a mindset of, I just need to get better, keep doing whatever I got to do, and just keep exploding the ball. And it was repetition, repetition, repetition. Again, get with a coach, get with a player, get with somebody who's willing to take shots on you, and then you can utilize your resources, pick up some tips and advice and some drills and some notes and take that with you to training and have a coach, a player take shots and say, okay, I'm going to work on stepping to my off stick. I got to work on churning the butter every single time, right? Coming over the top, coming over every time. Give me 50 shots. We're going to do this for 10 minutes. Can you just do that? perfect. Okay. The repetitions are going to naturally make you become a better goalie because you'll naturally be gaining muscle memory rep after rep after rep. Well, anyways, I could go into a whole nother rabbit hole of a whole bunch of things about coaches, but I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Hopefully it brought you some relief knowing what coaches care about. Hopefully you play for a coach who's in the 10% of coaches. Of course, that number is pretty small. That 10% of coaches who care for their goalies. But if not, if you don't play for one of those goalies, one of those coaches that are in the 10%, no worries, you're not alone. Like I said, 90% of coaches across the country, if not globally, know little to nothing about goalies. And that is a straight fact right there. But I want you to know we got you. If you need to talk to someone, we're here. We'll be glad to help you. Kind of like telemarketing service, right? You need help? Just call us up. We got you covered, right? But that's what we do here at Goalies Matter. We want to make sure that you're supported and that you're taken care of, right? I continue to work with Damon Wilson from Lax Goalie Rat to make sure he continues to keep putting out solid content so that you guys can keep getting better and you girls keep getting better. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you want to get in touch with me, I have my business at 6x6 Goalie Academy, but you can reach out to me at goaliesmatter@gmail.com as well. We'll help you. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody to help you. If you need somebody in that area, I guarantee you I probably might know somebody in that area. Okay? The goalie coaching community is small. We know a lot of people, right? We all know one another, right? Whether we've heard of each other or not, we do. And we can get you the help that you need. Anyways, just wanted to let you know. Just understand that my opinions today are mine only and nobody else's. But if you disagree with anything that I've said today, well, then prove me wrong. And let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. As we come to a close, being a goalie is not easy. It's definitely has its moments. Let's make the most of our time while we can. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. So let's find the good in our lives and be the best goalie that you can be. Thank you. We're out.